This is an alt cut of Far Branch because it's got Wilf, but it's also got the scene that was replaced by the journal scene. So this is a pretty fun run, I think, to talk about how after putting the movie together and understanding what needed to happen in the middle of it, some of this stuff had to just go away in order to make room for new stuff.
Are you okay?
I don't like it here. I don't trust them.
We really liked this moment between the two of them to acknowledge Noise in this way, but we couldn't have this and keep the journal scene, which was something that we added during reshoots and was important for many reasons. So we tried to incorporate a little bit more of this idea earlier for them to talk about Noise, but we never quite captured it in this way.
You know, in a version of the movie where the story is two people, you know, trying to learn to coexist when she can hear his thoughts, and where in the backstory that led to murder. This seemed like a critical scene for the two of them. Ultimately, the end of the movie is they learn to work together with his noise. I think I was hoping that that would be the movie. We were writing in that direction, but we just could never come up with an ending for that story. Far Branch, it was setting up a lot of ideas that ultimately we didn't have an ending that could pay them off. This is why you should at least have what your third act's going to be. And our big problem was that the third act in the Charlie Kaufman script didn't work. The ending of Patrick Ness's novel wasn't going to work for us. Right from the beginning, I talked about, with Ali Shermer, who's my initial producer, the idea of maybe bringing her ship in to give us a third act. And the studio didn't want to do that, because they wanted to preserve the ability to do the sequel novels and stay truer to them. So, you know, we obviously ultimately did bring her ship in, but that was a decision made very, very late.
And I'll be stranded.
She hates it here. Don't blame her.
We had this moment where the villagers of Far Branch are kind of strategizing about what to do if Mayor Prentice is coming. Then we eventually just decided it would be better for him and his men to surprise them.
Sure they still work?
Shh, the girl's sleeping.
Boy, I'm worried about Prentice got a spy. I say we just turn them both over to Prentice.
So you can see Ivan here, the guy who attacks Viola later. And here he's, you know, suggesting that they turn Todd and Viola in. So very much showing his colors.
Like, there's some reference there that Hildy also maybe wants her ship. Daisy's starting to realize that everyone on the planet's desperate, and no matter where they land, even people who seem to be friendly are going to want things from their ship, and it just could make the planet more dangerous for her.
And then the fact that Viola's overhearing that makes her distrustful of Hildy's motives. You know, it was an interesting layer to add, but ultimately we just didn't go in that direction. And selfishly, I love Hildy in the book, and I really liked keeping her honest and trustworthy and letting her be sort of a port in the storm. There's a line in another scene, and I wish we could have kept it in, where Hildy says to Viola, we have to be honest with each other. Men have their noise, women have to be honest. You know, women in this world have to work that much harder to trust and help each other.
My wife's name was Jessica.
What the hell does that mean?
There's a scene here that's based on the book where Matthew, who we met earlier, played by the fantastic Ray McKinnon, confronts Todd about the history of Prentice Town. And it was a great scene. You know, Ray did a fantastic job, and it lasted in the cut really for a very long time. But ultimately, once we had the journal scene from additional photography, once we decided that that was an important thing to have between Todd and Viola and incorporating Todd's mother, you know, we didn't need this moment with Matthew anymore. And unfortunately, it was slowing things down when we were ready for them to speed up. But yeah, you can see that we used pieces from the beginning and end of it and repurposed them for Todd when he's outside after the journal scene.
Get up. Get up.
Hey.
There's some coffee on the counter for you.
Thanks.
You have to leave Far Branch.
And there was a character in the the novel called Wilf, who I really like. You know, I like the tone of him. So like a scene like this that doesn't necessarily make any sense that Hildy's sending him away, but it was a way to get Wilf into the story. And having Wilf wasn't worth the crazy plot machinations it was going to require to get him in.
I think once we got that middle section dialed in of just the two of them in the woods before they get to Far Branch, it also made this feel really unbelievable. Like you never buy that Todd would just leave her there without a fight, you know, or anything like that.
And just structurally, as moviegoers, we know it's Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland in the movie, so we know that they're not actually going to separate. So even if we had dramatically pulled it off, it would just feel sort of dishonest to the audience, because you'd have to work a lot harder to justify them separating.
Right. And to your point too, it's like the audience knows they're going to get back together, so the audience is just going to start to get ahead of our plot, and then we run the risk of them getting bored versus, you know, I think where we ended up was a much more unpredictable and exciting way out of Far Branch.
Here you go. Not everyone feels that way. Prentice Town's still got allies.
That was, you know, Ivan who goes after Viola later on. We just had a little moment of him here planting the seed that he might be sympathetic to the Prentice Town men and what they did. Gives a little more complexity to the world, but ultimately, again, it was one of the cards that fell.
Come on, let's go.
I think losing Wilf was one of the hardest decisions we had to make in post. Oscar Hainara, who played him, is such a fantastic actor and so much fun and just brought so much humour to the character. He improv'd on set a lot and just really, we had a lot of fun with him. So losing all of that was a real shame and a difficult decision to make, but ultimately once we realised and decided that it wasn't true to Todd and Viola to separate them in this moment, we just, you know, lost the need for all of this material. And like a house of cards, when you start to pull one or two cards away, a lot of them then fall away. So it was a tough one. It was a tough one. But ultimately, it had to be done.
This is what Far Branch looked like when Doc started on the movie. So kind of get a little idea of the role of an editor coming in after photography and after the first edits of the movie have been done, you know, coming in fresh as we're gearing up to do additional photography. And the version of Far Branch that is ultimately in the movie was mocked up by Doc long before we shot it.
Because he's from Prentice Town.
But he started with this, so that you get a little bit of insight into how he was thinking as an editor, and that no one's going to believe that Daisy and Tom are really going to be separating, so you're going to lose the audience here a little bit because they know you're being dishonest with them, and it's totally predictable because you know they're getting back together, so the audience is just way ahead. No matter how good a job Daisy and Tom do of acting like maybe they're missing each other, the audience is like, we're only halfway through the movie, so there's no way this is an actual separation. So it's that kind of insight, you know, Doc brought coming in with fresh eyes and saying, like, they can't separate. And then if they're not separating, it means we can't have the Wilf scenes.
Right, which was an unfortunate thing, but also like the nomadic nature, I think, of Todd and Viola in the current version of Far Branch feels more authentic to the movie. Like, they don't feel like they're actually stopping. They feel like they're gathering the next iteration of their plan, but we needed them to stay focused on the task at hand, especially for Viola. You know, she's got to get to the transmitter. She's got to find a way to send a message to her ship. She explicitly says that relatively early on in Far Branch, and then with some of these scenes, and it was like, does she really have to do that? Because we're just sort of sitting around, you know, leisurely doing things, and we lost a lot of urgency. You see this here where the Prentice Town men ride up to Wilf's cart, and because you know that Todd just left Far Branch, it gives you a sense of geography about the Prentice Town men, and it tells you that they're close. And, you know, you compare that with the version of the movie we have now, where we're very deliberately and intentionally not geographically tying them to Far Branch, so that when we cut to the shot of the woman in the tower, seeing them in the distance, it is really unexpected. You know, and it's much more from your main character's point of view, because they don't know where these guys are. And I think that those adjustments that we found as we worked through Far Branch were really useful as far as trying to keep the audience on their toes and, you know, never be bored. And I think it was great having so many different pieces. for us to experiment with. And, you know, we tried so many different versions of Far Branch in order to end up with a version that we all felt was the best foot forward for it to get us to the next piece of the movie. And that wasn't something we could even decide until we actually had an ending that was at least on its feet and we knew where we were going.
Viola.
Hildy.
David, you have a lot of gall coming here. The law says any Prentisstown man we catch gets the rope.
Funny. I didn't see young Todd up in the gallows as we rode in. You here?
Read my mind.
You're simply here for the girl. We now have a common enemy.
I'm not handing over a woman to any man of Prentisstown.
She's not a victim, she's a spy. Come from a new ship. Here to steal everything you have. Your land, the fields you toil and sweat over endless day after endless day. But we're gonna take that ship before it takes us. And the good people of Far Branch are more than welcome to join us. But I need that girl before she wants them.
Not this time.
You're a liar!
Hello? Hey. It's okay. Not gonna hurt you. Billy sent me. I'll get the girl. Bring her to practice.
I'll ask you once. Put down your weapons. This isn't a fair fight. We'll show no mercy to anyone who stands in our way.
Remember who he is. Don't let him get in your head.
I am.
Worth the fight. No choice.
What is it? What is it? Save her. Save her.
Viola.
What the hell happened?